Don't you know what this is?" He read the papers over Wolf's shoulder. He saw the anomalies, small figures moving toward the city, and assumed they were lizard or small mammal-like animals moving to higher ground from flooded-out burrows, and he said as much. "Colonel Deacon, have you ever seen the recordings of the traces made by those creatures?" Wolf replied, looking at the Kingdomite commander. Hosanna blinked. Of course he'd seen the electronic signs of migrating animals. "I have. It was a part of the orientation for all officers and non-commissioned officers of 26th Fist when we first arrived. The Skinks have a lower body temperature than humans. They give infra-signals just like smaller animals." He looked directly at Second Acolyte Burning Bush. "Why haven't you passed the order yet? Do it. Now!" The junior Kingdomite officer jumped at the shouted word. He cast a fearful glance at his rightful commander as he darted out of the room. "You may be right," Wolf said harshly to Hosanna, "but I'd rather be embarrassed by ordering a full alert over a lemming run than be caught sleeping by a skink attack." "As you wish," Hosanna said, his face expressionless. "If I'm right, I hope your men know how to fight," Wolf growled. He checked to see that he had a fresh power pack in his sidearm as he strode from the Situation Room to the command center. Alone, Hosanna allowed an expression to fix on his face. It was a combination of hatred and fury. Archbishop General Lambsblood had a great deal to answer for, putting the off-world infidel junior officers and swords in command of units of the Army of the Lord over more senior officers, officers pure in their faithfulness. The Overmaster transmitted a halt command to the Masters. The Masters relayed the command to the leaders in turn halted the advance of the fighters and moved them out of ragged columns into a staggered line facing the defensive positions. The fighters couldn't see the positions, and the receptors on their sides could not pinpoint the bunker locations. They weren't close enough. But they knew there were many camouflaged a short distance ahead, because their leaders had told them they would form on line when they were just out of firing range. On command, the fighters lowered themselves to the ground, elevated the nozzles of their weapons enough to keep them from getting clogged by anything on the ground, and began slithering forward through the muck. Very soon the largest bunkers became visible, hulking black on black out of the Stygian darkness. After the fighters entered their weapons' most extreme range, their side receptors began to detect minute electrical impulses radiating from the bunkers. Suddenly, their receptors overloaded by massive electric discharges all along the defensive line. The fighters were disoriented. Lights as brilliant as a small sun lit them up. Then surprised shouts came from the bunkers, followed quickly by fléchette fire studded with plasma bolts from the blasters of the few Confederation Marines positioned among the soldiers of the Army of the Lord. The Overmaster shrieked orders. Masters shrilled them in return. Leaders screamed them out. The fighters damped their receptors and regained equilibrium. They pointed the nozzles of their weapons at bunker apertures and fired. Many streams of a viscous, greenish fluid spattered harmlessly against bunker walls, but some disappeared through the apertures. Agonized cries echoed out, but attackers were quickly being shredded by fléchettes or flashed into vapor as the fighters wriggled deeper into the mud and returned fire. As more of the defenders obeyed the commands of the Marines and opened up on the attackers, the rate of fire from the bunkers increased, despite those no longer in the fight. The fire from the attackers slowly ebbed as their numbers dwindled under murderous fire from the bunkers. The Overmaster in command of the raid reported more than 30 bunkers killed, at least 6 of which held Earthman Marines. He further reported more than 250 fighters along with 7 leaders and 2 masters died gloriously in the great victory. Captain Conrado, just returned from his court-martial on Earth, nodded when his officers and senior non-commissioned officers finished bringing him up to date. "All right, Mac," he said, addressing Lieutenant Rachmaninoff.